This episode sponsored by our good friends at Docking Bay 94, located in Boca Raton, Florida. Check us out at comicsandgames.com. And Famous Faces and Funnies, located in Melbourne, Florida. Check us out on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, shipping nationwide. And the premier sponsor of this episode, PGX Comics, the professional place to get your comics graded and in case. Welcome to another exciting episode of Codename Venom 2. Hi, I'm your presenter, Shibu. Are you? Well, we're going to do another PGX unboxing for this month of August 2021. And if my regulars know, I've been featuring PGX and EGS expert grading services as an alternative to the dominant CGC. I initially did use CGC, but again, as an analyst and an auditor, I kind of didn't like the fact that there was one company that held a strong position in a particular field. We've seen companies such as Sears, Toys R Us have a stronghold and then due to some type of executive mishandling have a trickle down effect and thus fail. So to have more than one company to uphold the standard is actually beneficial for comic industry as a whole. And I think in order to preserve that and to pass it going forward, this what needs to be kind of addressed and encouraged. And here's the whole skinny of it. PGX, I love the fact that you get to talk to the same people, real people that show a genuine interest in having excellent customer service. That is one factor. That was second factor why I deal with PGX expert grading services. I like to thank Dan, Colette, and the rest of the PGX team for their continued support and encouragement. And I encourage you guys to consider them for your comic grading needs. So let's begin. And before I do, actually, I'm not gonna let's not concentrate on the number. I mean, I've used clean and press on some of them, but not all of them. You'll see the difference using clean and press. Some of these are going to be in my personal collection, and I think that that's where I'm not too stingy on getting things cleaned and pressed because they're going to go up on the GIJoe wall behind me. So it wasn't that, I didn't want to be too stingy as far as that goes. And the fact of the matter is many of these issues that you're about to see are newsstand variants. That's right. Newsstand variants are the ones that remember picking up at 7-Eleven or newsstands. So if they're not high grades, it's kind of understandable because of the scarcity that they are, especially as you go towards the 90s. It was becoming more and more scarce to find a newsstand variant of any comic series. So I was lucky. I've had a whole bunch of newsstands that I went and got graded. And even though I utilize clean and press, it's kind of tough to get everything, tough to go to a 9.8 or what have you. But again, this is just the pure fun of it. And that's what I want to encourage. If you're always focusing on getting 9.8s, 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 I mean, you're missing the point. That's not the point of this hobby. There are several books that are very important to me that I enjoyed as a kid, that are important to me in my overall return to comics as well. So let's begin with the first one. Oh, let me get that. Okay, the first one we have is GIJoe issue number 32. And this is a big one because this is the first appearance of Lady J, as well as Ripcord, and I think Blowtorch as well. Again, a newsstand variant. I'll have a picture on the side as well. This is a very key issue, and it has seen tremendous growth due to the announcement of an Amazon and GIJoe Hasbro collaboration to develop a Lady J series. So to get this in newsstand and graded is definitely a happy moment. And the funny thing is, when I started doing GIJoe comics for the channel, this book could have been easily picked up for $3 or $5. It was one of those books that you would find and I'm sure a lot of people were looking in those bins in the back and were able to find this. But now, this a couple months ago was a hot book and actually was on Comic Tom 101's top 10 list. So to get this in this condition, and it still presents well. So what? It's a 6.5. It presents pretty nice. It looks good. And it's definitely something I'm glad that I had get done. The next issue we're going to feature is Web of Spider-Man number 103. This is part 10 of the 14 Maximum Carnage series. Again, with actually the news of the delay of Venom 2 being pushed back to October, you know, now is a good time to pick up all the Carnage and Venom specs that you can out there in the market, because it's like increasing the appetite more and more. And what's cool about this part, especially at the end of the Maximum Carnage, is you get a plethora of characters. This one has Carnage, Venom, Captain America, Cloak, Black Cat, Iron Fist, Morbius, Deadlock, Nightwatch, Firestar, and Carrion Appearance. Like, there's so many people involved in this storyline, especially towards the end of it. It remains to be seen what they're going to use in the Maximum Carnage in this Venom 2. I doubt it'll be like a lot from it. Like, you know, there's no way Captain America and stuff are going to appear. But what elements they're going to utilize from the Maximum Carnage into the Venom 2 series, movie is going to be interesting, compelling. So this is one of those books that definitely I would recommend, you know, getting the entire 14 issues that compiled. I mean, they were spread all throughout across all the Spider-Man titles, and it is one of those things that, you know, you had to put effort back in the day to get all of these. That was what made it fun and intriguing. You know, maybe a lot of readers weren't reading Web of Spider-Man or Spectacular Spider-Man, were just Amazing Spider-Man fans. So it made you go cross books to get this whole series and the storyline down. And that's what made it really, really fun back in the 90s. And I recall doing that. So to get this one done, we got a 9.0, which is a nice grade. And, you know, I'm really happy with this one. This is pretty nice. The next one is another exciting book. Now, if you watched my channel regularly, I have a nice G.I. Joe comic collection. Issue number 1, issue number 21. I featured them earlier. Another key issue in the Snake Eyes origin series is G.I. Joe issue number 27. It has the origin of Storm Shadow and Snake Eyes. It talks about what happened in the past. So, of course, it's very different from the movie title. And but still, there are a lot of elements that they did incorporate from the comic book into the movie. So again, you have to understand that it's two different mediums, two different things, but at the same time, there's a lot of similarities between that. And even though Snake Eyes didn't perform as well in the box office recently, because I have to give it to the Delta 9 variant, but as a G.I. Joe fan, I recommend you guys to watch the Snake Eyes origin movies. Yes, it is different, but there's a lot of elements that are somewhat similar to what was going on in Larry Hama's book. But this is another key issue besides G.I. Joe number 1, 21, 27, 26 are very important key elements in the G.I. Joe mythos as far as like how Snake Eyes became to be Snake Eyes. So you'll learn a lot from that. And I think in the last video I did, I featured a reprint of, IDW did a reprint of issue number 26 and 27 together. So again, it's nice to have that to utilize, but also have this encased and graded for me. Again, this is a newsstand variant. So, you know, it's going to be a little bit rough than a direct edition, and it got a 6.5. I think that's a win. I mean, I'm happy. It looks good. The presentation is good. Yellow is definitely tough in far as grading goes and getting it cleaned and pressed, but you know, there's no stains or nothing. It's pretty much like, you know, at the edges and the corners, and that's expected when you have a newsstand variant. So this is a very respectable 6.5. The next book we're going to feature is Amazing Spider-Man number 344. This is the first cameo appearance of Cletus Cassidy, as far as the first appearance of Cardiac, which is this guy right here. But again, this is another with Venom 2 coming. These are books besides Amazing Spider-Man 361 that you should target and focus in on. This one got a 9.0, and again, wonderfully done. I love that Rhino is in there and this somewhat turquoise background. it came out wonderfully, looking presentable. PGX knocked this one out of the park. And I really am so delighted to have this. And this is, again, one of those issues that people sleep on and may not know of. But targeting this and adding this to your collection is definitely a must and something you should be on the lookout for. And now with Venom 2 being pushed back, it gives you more time to pick up issues, not only, because 361, the first appearance of Carnage, is kind of being priced out. It's getting up there in price. But these other things, a first appearance, first cameo of Cletus Kasady, are definitely important elements to add in one's collection, and one that you should consider as well. The next book we're going to feature is the second to last G.I. Joe Marvel issue. G.I. Joe issue number 154. Very scarce. A lot of normal fans know that by the end, I think between around 140, some of the issues became very difficult to find as print numbers significantly dropped for G.I. Joe. So this is the second to last issue of G.I. Joe. Tough to find. Also, an interesting fact, Larry Hammond didn't write this issue. I think he was already jumping on to, he had already burned out, and I think that he was working on Wolverine at the time and Punisher. But again, this is an interesting story, but the fact that it is very scarce and had a limited print run is one of those keys to pick up in G.I. Joe. Not only 1, 21, 26, 27, the ones I mentioned, but towards the end of the Real American Hero Marvel run, they had a very, very low print run. So the only one I'm missing is 155. So if anybody has a 155 out there, hey. But still, this is definitely an excellent pickup. And it had a little bit of damage on it. But still, getting a 6.5 out of this book is definitely good. And again, this is part of the PC, so it's going to go up on the wall. But to have this done, the second to last G.I. Joe ever in Marvel, is definitely one of those things that I'm delighted to get done. And again, PGX did an excellent job with this book. I mentioned yellow. I mean, I got this clean and pressed as well. So it is definitely a nice book done. This is a respectable 6.5, considering the scarcity of this title as it is. So this is definitely a very, very nice pickup I have. The next one is actually, we're going to add to what I just did with the last Amazing Spider-Man. This one's issue number 345, the next issue. It is, ironically, the first Mark Bagley Spider-Man. So that's an added bonus, and it's the first full appearance of Cletus Kasady. So this is definitely a book that has been skyrocketing in value, and I am, again, the yellow thing makes it tough, but the fact that it's Mark Bagley's first Spider-Man book adds to this significance of this one. Sometimes it flies below the radar, but it's definitely one you should consider and target picking up. Considering now that I mentioned Venom 2 has been pushed back, this is definitely one that you should definitely add to your collection. Yes, we know Carnage's first appearance, full appearance, is in issue 361. So the other half of Carnage is Cletus Kasady. So getting his first full appearance and his cameo, like I mentioned earlier, are definitely two things you should target and consider for your collection. The last book we're going to feature in this package is actually Amazing Spider-Man 299. And according to Todd Mcfarlane, this is the first Venom, according to him. 300 has been priced out of a lot of people's price ranges. It's just skyrocketed in value. It's turning into its own monster. So what has happened exactly with Hulk 181? Hulk 180 has kicked up and generated a lot of interest. So this is another reason why I suggest a lot of people to target 299. I think the same effect that Hulk 180, Amazing Spider-Man 299 should be the beneficiary of that. Just a matter of time. First full appearance of Venom, and again, this is a newsstand variant as well. So this is the reason why I targeted this issue, is because it was a newsstand. Yes, they got it 5.5. That's pretty low. I'm a little sad. But again, with the white, that's pretty tough, man. With a newsstand variant with the white cover, you have to have going with expectations a little bit lower. But once again, PGX did an excellent job with this presentation and cover. It does look great. And I'm going to keep it in the PC because it's just, this is one you keep and you put away for a rainy day, because I see this book in particular going up in value, especially these newsstand variants with 300 getting astronomically insane as far as prices goes. And I have to agree with Mcfarlane. As a kid, back for us in the 90s, we thought that this was Venom's first appearance. 300 was like an anniversary issue. So remember us in the 90s, that's how we treated this as. This was the first Venom. And 300 was just a special anniversary issue. The fact that it was a 300 issue was the most important factor about that. This one was the first appearance of the character. So I got to agree with the Todd father. This is probably the first, in my opinion, appearance of Venom, even though Overstreet considers this a cameo appearance. But again, it goes back to Hulk 180, 181. This is going to be a continuing problem with a lot of Marvel titles. What is first appearance? What is cameo? You know, all this criteria nonsense. So the big suggestion I have to my followers and anybody in general, the next best thing is a definitely more valuable option to consider in your collection. You know, targeting those big keys, maybe they might not be advantageous. Going after the next best thing is something more advantageous for you to consider. So that's $2.99. So since I mentioned Hulk 181 several times in this issue and getting the next best thing, I was lucky to pick up Hulk 182. 180 has gone crazy. 181, of course, I mentioned. The next best option is 182. So whatever you consider this the third or second appearance of Wolverine, I think is really important. It's one of those issues you should target and put away in your collection now before this has the same, I guess, you know, effects of all what's transpiring. So I definitely recommend targeting issue 182. And again, this will be sent, it'll be cleaned and pressed, but you know, this is a pretty nice clean copy from an estate sale. So this is definitely something to consider. Again, just to wrap up and summarize, I've been featuring these besides my monthly GIJoe recaps as something to showcase to everybody that there are alternatives besides CGC. I'm not saying anything bad about CGC, but at the same time, I think it's important to give the hobby, to give the entire industry different options besides CGC. Having one as the standard is a very dangerous thing. And I'm very happy with PGX's service, the turnaround time, the dialogue that goes on between them and me as far as customer relations. They have been spot on and excellent. I as a Gen Xer, you know, I think that they've been treating me with respect, class, and there's something that I highly encourage and recommend. For you to consider PGX, look at the link below and tell them that you saw from Venom 2. This is GIJoe, signing off.